I'll start that one, I guess.
Shut up and sit down.
Oops. What is going on? There we go. Oops. Sorry, I'm not sure what happened. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Kentucky Go Digital Live. My name is DJ Maddie B, and I will be your DJ and be your lead for the show today. I am super excited to welcome you. Happy October 27th, 4 days until Halloween. It is also the 16th anniversary of the Red Sox winning their first World Series in 86 years. So I'm repping my boys today. We got, this is actually a 2018 World Series jersey, so I kind of cheated a little bit, but it's okay. It's okay. So joining us today, we have another incredible panel for you of leaders from all across the state of Kentucky. We have Elaine Abenatha, a digital innovation leader for JCPS. We have Amy Buss, the instructional technology coordinator for Warren County Public Schools. We have Heidi Neltner, digital learning coach for Fort Thomas Independent Schools. We have Courtney DeRossick, field staff for KDE. We have Danielle Washburn, digital innovation leader for JCPS. Kathleen Receiver, digital innovation leader for JCPS. And we have all of you. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are so happy to have you. Please let us know where you're from, what you teach, what questions you have. We have some great leaders that are in the chat as well. We have Brandy New, Dana Dowdy, Heather Worrell, and Angie White, who will be taking questions from our YouTube live chat. So make sure you drop in there and let us know what county or state you're from. We have people from other states joining us for KY Go Digital as well. If you don't have the chat capability, make sure you log into YouTube, and while you're there, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can easily continue to learn with us. All right, it is time to hear from some amazing leaders from Warren County down in the south central portion of the state of Kentucky here. We have leaders from Plano Elementary and KDE with us today. So we have Ben Frazier, who's the principal of Plano Elementary. We have Amy Buss, again, the instructional technology coordinator for Warren County Schools. And then we have Ben Maynard and James Allen, who are digital learning coaches with the Kentucky Department of Education. It is great to have you all today.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting, and I just wanted to share our getting started with Data Studio with all of our Kentucky Go Digital network. So it's actually a previous Kentucky Go Digital episode that I was actually on with Ben and Marty Park and some of our friends from Oldham County and Fayette County. And they were really just knocking it out of the park. And it just started with fireworks going off in my brain of just different things. And then I reached out to the amazing Ben Maynard, and he kind of led us into the shallow end of the pool pre-COVID, and, you know, just started getting our feet wet just a little bit. And, you know, then COVID happened, and we kind of had to, you know, separate a little bit from, you know, the work that was started. But we have some amazing principals that really got that little spark, and Ben Frazier is one of those amazing principals that kind of just dove right in and said, okay, I see the need for this, and I see the purpose behind it and the why. And he has done a great job taking what Ben Maynard led us into and started and using it. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our amazing principal, Ben Frazier, and he's going to lead us off today.
Well, thanks, Amy. I appreciate your leadership in our district and giving us this opportunity. I would have not known Data Studio existed if it wasn't for you inviting us on that trip to E-Town. So thank you. But first, I gotta say, DJ Matty B, we made a connection that he graduated high school with my little brother. And I've been texting my brother during this time, and he said that you always made jokes at his expense, and he hasn't really gotten over those yet. So I think he's awaiting an apology for that. And he also said, go Yankees. So just want to pass that on to you, Matty B.
Hurtful all around. All right.
All right. So anyway, we jumped off into this after we met with Ben Maynard. We looked at some ways that we could just kind of dip our toes into Data Studio. And I think that the setup for Data Studio takes a little bit of some know-how. It takes some experience. It's not quite as simple as just creating a spreadsheet. I think if you have spreadsheets expertise, that'll lean into making a Data Studio project. Excuse me. But I think the end result you get with Data Studio is something anybody can use. And that's where I think a lot of the power is with it, and that you can just, you can have a product that people who aren't tech savvy or aren't savvy with spreadsheets, they can use it. So it's a tool that can give you a wide benefit. So let me share my screen here real quick. Sharing screen now.
That looks good. Yep, we can see you.
All right, perfect. Get my captions rolling here. So I've got 4 examples of how we've used Data Studio. So we're just kind of roll through those real quick. And what I've done, I've taken a screenshot of some of these because some of them contain, like when you click on a drop-down list, you might see some student information or personal information. So I just want to hide that, but this kind of gives you a visual of what it does. So the first example we created was just a staff check-in. We sent a Google form to all of our staff on Monday mornings just to kind of ask them, hey, how are you today? How are you? What's your readiness to tackle this week? What kind of emotional state are you in? And then I could go and just pull up Data Studio and get almost instant results from it. And so what you're seeing here is a result from, this is from just a random date, March 9th, 2020, right before COVID hit. You might have seen some different results, after the pandemic kind of took over our school system. But you can see that, I had about a quarter of teachers responded they were content. Then another about a quarter said they were ready for a great day. There was 16.7 that felt overwhelmed, 13.3 happy. And then this bottom number down here, I had them rate their readiness to tackle the week on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. And, it was a 1.9. So that kind of gave me a snapshot to start the week. All right, where's my staff at? What do they need? What's their state right now? And if I saw those numbers go down, like if that readiness was going more toward a 3, then I'd be like, all right, what can I do to kind of spark some energy here? Maybe it's a gene day or some other surprise that might pick everybody up. So it was a real helpful tool. But that Google form, of course, feeds to a Google Sheet, and the Google Sheet informs your Data Studio. So that's how I use that. And you can see there's nothing real special about this. We got a pie chart, a bar graph, and a number on here. So nothing too fancy, but it was real helpful for me. The next, this is a results of a parent survey we sent out. This was something we sent out in the spring after we had been in NTI mode for a few weeks. And it lets it just gave us a snapshot of how our parents felt about our NTI services. And so one of the real cool things about Data Studio, I can't show you right now because this is a screenshot, but up where it says what grade is your child in, right now we're seeing the entire school results. But you can instantly click on that drop-down box and then choose, I just want to see 6th grade, or I just want to see 3rd grade. And then you could instantly look at a specific grade level information. So what we did with this is I just sent this link to the Data Studio to our teachers, and then in their PLCs, they looked at their specific grade level information and came up with an action plan on what we can do to improve our services to parents during that time. So it was real helpful for us just to take that. And again, every teacher in the building could use it because it's just clicking on a drop-down menu, didn't take any expertise with it. That was real helpful. Next, I had all of my special ed teachers fill out a Google form about all of their students on their caseload. And what we were looking at is we were trying to identify our gap groups, and we found that at Plano, our largest gaps happen with our SPED population, which I'm sure is true for many schools in Kentucky. And so we were evaluating, all right, what are we doing? What do we need to adjust to make sure we're serving those students better? So they filled out a Google form about all their students, and then that fed to this Google Studio where we could see, all right, where are our students receiving their core math location? and we could see it was about 50%, 45 in the regular classroom and 55 in resource. And just looking at a total school-wide total, I thought, you know what, we're serving a lot of students in the resource room. Maybe we need to push those students back into the regular classroom and do more co-teaching. So this really informed us on getting, making some of those academic decisions. And just like with the previous example here, you could click on the grade drop-down box and you can look at just the grade level. You can even go down to an individual and click on name and look at an individual student, see where they're going. I know you can look up information on Infinite Campus, but to me, Infinite Campus is a beast. It's hard for me to navigate that sometimes. So this was a way I could quickly look at our information, look at our student population, and make some decisions. And again, I can share this with anyone on our team, and they could navigate it too. And then last, I have a screenshot of it, but I'm actually going to pull it up so I can really show you how it works. This is the results of a survey that we sent to parents this summer that was asking them, what school format do you want this year? Because our district was offering an in-person option and a virtual option, like many other districts are. And this inspiration came from Amy because she set one up for the entire district. And so our district pushed out a Google form to all the parents asking them, hey, what school format choice do you want for your students? And ask some other kind of demographic information too. Now, that was real helpful. It gave us a big picture. And let me back up. Amy created her data studio for the district so that I could go in and see that information. And so that was really helpful. But the one issue with that is that sometimes you might get duplicate entries, because when you send a data or a survey out to a big population, you might have parents or students who their parents don't live together, so both parents filled it out. Well, when I'm making decisions on staffing, like knowing how many students are going to be in a class, how many teachers do I need exact numbers for that. So those duplicate entries kind of made that data. It was helpful to get a big picture, but I couldn't make a lot of decisions based upon that. So what we did was we took the spreadsheet that Amy had created that was attached to that Google form, and I just did a copy and paste from it. And we combed through it and just did a sort by student last name, and we just deleted all the duplicates. And then when any new entries came in, this was one of those things I had to manually kind of add that row to our spreadsheet. But that little bit of extra work gave me data that was very specific and that I could count on to being much more accurate, and it let me have data that I could make decisions based off of. So our Plano specific spreadsheet, I just made another data studio for it. And this was really helpful because this first screen here, you could see that of our entire school, we've got 168 that chose Virtual Academy and 460 that chose the in-person option. And you can see the breakdown of our school. But the power of this is that you can real quickly change or manipulate it. So let's say, all right, I just want to look at 5th grade. So I click on that drop-down box and I click only on 5th grade. And then Data Studio does its thing. And boom, now I have information specific just to 5th grade. So I see I have 31 students in 5th grade signed up for Virtual Academy and 71 for traditional in-person. So that's helpful information that lets me make specific decisions about staffing for us getting set up. And then I've created several, or actually we can go in here and let me go back and let's select everybody again. You can, this first drop-down box, you can select, all right, I just want to view everyone who selected in person. So I'll do that. So I can see that these are all in person, but now it gives me a breakdown of how many in-person students I have for each grade. So again, helpful information for staffing purposes. So we also have a page that was devoted to devices, whether students had devices at home or whether they didn't. So we would know, all right, how many do we need to provide for our students? So this question was just, do you have a device that's capable of connecting to the internet? Yes or no. So you can see school-wide, 521 did. We had 107 that didn't. So again, just real quick information. I was able to give this to our technology specialists who started, making sure we had all of our Chromebooks lined up that we could, and enough lined up so that we could send to families. And then the next one was an internet question, asking families, because it's not just about having a device, it's about having a good internet connection. And we found that 602 said they did have a good internet connection at home, but we had 26 who didn't. So we had to, again, come up with other options of how we're going to serve those students. And then next one was transportation. Because we know with the pandemic, we assumed that some of our parents would be more hesitant to put their children on a bus. They want to be a car rider. So we just needed that information. So we knew how to reorganize our afternoon dismissal and morning arrival procedures to accommodate for that. And we had about 44% who were doing buses AM and PM, and 37% that were car riders AM and PM. And then there was a variety of combinations within those. And then last, we just one of the questions for the parents was, does your student receive any SPED or ESL services? And so that gave us a breakdown here, because it was helpful to know, all right, of our virtual students, so I'm going to select virtual only, how many are receiving services, different types of services. So it gives me the breakdown here, and the grade breakdown on this side. So again, that was helpful for our special ed staff, so they could start making a plan how we're going to serve our virtual students. But it was it's a little work on the front end to organize the data for this, because we were really manually putting rows of information into a new spreadsheet. But I think the payoff was that we were able to make decisions quickly and with the good information. So
Ben, I just want to chime in for a second. I'm thinking, as an administrator, when you are trying to communicate all of that information on all of those sheets, I know I've been in meetings, I am guilty of it, that I'll show the spreadsheet like that means anything to anyone else. And when you show those visuals, especially in a time that people want to understand why are we making the decisions we're making, and you can show the visuals, how, did you get better feedback? Could you sense that people understood the decisions better? I mean, I would think that would have to be the result of you doing it this way, was that people were understanding a little more clearly why you were making the decisions you were making, as opposed to this spreadsheet says.
Right. The hard thing for us was our staffing decisions. We were getting up to school starting, and we do our best to make sure teachers know as early as they can what their teaching assignment is, because it's unavoidable at times, but you never want to go up to a teacher the day before school starts. Hey, you're third grade. Now I need you to be a virtual second grade teacher. That's a tough conversation. But in those instances where we had to make changes, I could show, hey, here's why, we have to do this. It is just a numbers thing, and we got to make sure we have enough students to serve. So yeah, it's real beneficial to just show the why, because, you can't argue with the numbers. And, if we have, 50, I'm making an example, 50 first grade virtual students, well, obviously I can't just put one teacher there and expect everything just to be hunky-dory. I got to, do something else and change that. So.
Hey, Ben, as an administrator too, have you ever had a situation where we had to get as granular with the data and as detailed with the data that we have had to do this, basically since March and since the summer started? And how has Data Studio helped with disseminating all of that very, very specific data? So something that kept, getting said to me and our whole district is, you've got to know these students by name. You've got to know those no internet students by name. There's no device students by name. So how did Data Studio really help you get down to the details of what was needed for your school?
Well, it's just so easy to, once you put that legwork on the front end of it, it's so easy to manipulate, and you can just pull it up at any moment. And like you said, how many students don't have internet? Boom, I can pull it up. And what I didn't show on my screen, there's a field on the bottom of all those charts that actually listed the student names and their information. Of course, I took that off for this presentation because we don't want that to go out. So I could see all their names right there. So that was just super helpful because, we had to make decisions, real quickly. I mean, everybody's gone through this, but, state guidelines change quickly, your district guidelines change quickly. So, we made a dramatic shift right before, a week before school started, going to a hybrid format. So, we had to quickly be able to decide, all right, which students are coming Monday and Wednesday and which students are coming Tuesday and Thursday. And with Data Studio, we were able to make those decisions rather quickly, and we didn't have to sit and print off all the lists. All right, everybody get around a table. Let's all, highlight the ones we want to come on Monday and Wednesday. Oh, we made a mistake here. Someone get print off a new page because I highlighted the wrong color. It just makes conversations happen faster, and the visualization too, just being able to look at the big picture real quickly and say, all right, this is going to make sense, or this, or we're not on the right track. We need to try something else.
I just want to hop in. I love how simple you've made it look. And having worked in there a little bit, I have such a hard time visualizing how I want it to look. I don't know if you can kind of talk through the process of how you decide how you're going to structure it. I don't know if that's in your mind. I want to know what's going on in your mind when you're designing something like this.
Well, I try to think. I don't have an art to it yet because I'm just kind of dipping my toes into it, but I just think about the filters are the questions or the drop down boxes you put on there. So I think about what are the drop down, how do I want to delineate the information? And then I think about, okay, now how do I want to visualize that or represent that? So, and with different people, some people can read a bar graph easier, some people read a pie chart, and depending on the information, different types of graphs make sense. So it was really just trial and error. And I really liked the fact that you can make different pages on Data Studio. So the example I just showed you, each, a page was about a different topic, whether it was, all right, just what's your format or what's your device situation, what's your internet situation. So we were able to, just make a different page for each big topic.
That's awesome. I just appreciate that you're using it as a model for teachers to make informed decisions because, I think teachers could really benefit from collecting data like this on their students. Even when you mentioned Jean's Day, I was like, yes, that is perfect because you can check to see where your faculty is and know how they're feeling and intervene, which is amazing. That's an amazing way to use it.
Yeah, that's just the benefit of it. It just, once you put that work in the front end, then it works itself. And you just have all the information, then you can actually apply it and make it meaningful and not just say, all right, we've got a data board, let's just look at it, and since I've been here at Plano, we've never had a data board because I'd rather have something that teachers can take at home, they can look at, or wherever we are. And of course, right now, we're not all in one small room because we're not going to risk that because we don't want to all be quarantined in case someone, heaven forbid, comes down with a case of COVID. So we need something that we can use. We need something to use that we can communicate with virtually.
Thanks so much, Ben. One of the things too that one of our other schools is about to start is really using Data Studio to track data for students, assessment data, progress monitoring, behavior data, and essentially, they can do that in a spreadsheet, but they want to make it simpler for the teachers. So each teacher will have essentially a spreadsheet for their class where they will enter in all the data, and then the assistant principal at the school is going to build the visualizations from that spreadsheet of data. So the teacher's just maintaining that spreadsheet, and then those visualizations will be built basically by grade level, by class, by school, so they can really, during their strategic planning meetings and data meetings and child study team meetings, they can really use these visualizations and make informed decisions about the student. So I know Ben will jump in there and start doing that next. So.
Yeah, that's our next thing, is figuring out how we can have an all-encompassing academic data studio. And I know Ben Maynard showed us some great examples when we were in E-Town, so we are working our way up to that. That's the next step for us.
You are definitely giving me future goals for sure right now. I was gonna just share the one that I made for us to track COVID data, and now that I've seen all your fancy filters, I'm like, I know that I have a new skill I'm gonna try to learn today, because that made it so easy. So I'll share my screen real quick, just to show ours, and then we're gonna get the weird thing happening where everybody sees everything. Okay, so this is just I just did screenshots, but I'll take y'all out to the website here. Let me put on the captioning.
That's beautiful, Heidi.
So it looks pretty, but it doesn't have all those fancy filters. I'm so jealous. So we collect all our data through forms and then work on the back end for it. And we have two data sources that are coming into it. One is for just COVID-like symptoms at the school level with that tracks quarantining and our number of cases. And then we also are keeping track of data in a separate sheet that's using historical data. So that's where the graphs are coming from, and we're tracking Kentucky is the green line, and then our county, Campbell County, is the blue line. So I just learned how to do this summer, and I focused on trying to make it look presentable for our community, because we have it here on our Healthy at School website. And there are no less than usually 20 people on here when I pop in to just make sure everything's updated or whatever. But I just crammed everything into tables, right? So this is just me learning how to do it. And I just love seeing Ben's work at Plano and how he used those filters, because I think that probably could have made it a lot cleaner almost. The one thing that I just love about these charts is that they're, kind of interactive. I just get a kick out of that. So this is how we're using it. This is my very first attempt, and I see so much that we can do with it as far as looking at data for to make informed decisions about curriculum and all kinds of things. So I just am kind of geeking out hearing all the ideas that you guys are already using. So that's just one of the things that I was gonna share. And we've got buttons. So I use tables, a chart, and some buttons in here, which were just some different features that I think are kind of cool to use. So that's just our quick, it looks fancy, but it's not fancy because I don't have those filters, and I love that.
Well, I think it's what the families and parents want to see and what they need. So I think it's excellent. It looks great.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm hoping that Ben Maynard will show us some filter action here, because I need to learn that.
Filters are our friends with this, no doubt about it. Guys, I'm blown away by some of the ways that you guys are using this, because I know as I kind of listen to everyone's story, there's big key connections that everyone's making, given our current situation, but when, even before and beyond this, I love it that you're able to use it for social, emotional, well-being checks for staff. That is one of the things that I've been talking with building leaders all summer, even up till now, about not only SEL for our kids, but SEL for our teachers and staff. And so to be able to use it to visualize that, engaging the community, Heidi, that was a perfect example of you build it with an intent, and it engages the community. And so it's showing flexibility in those two pieces. And then, of course, getting into teaching and learning with a lot of the information that Ben was able to show, and like I say, Amy being able to kind of now take this to a next level and build upon what you have, and then just flat out just modeling as the lead learner, right? And so you guys able to model like workflows and procedures, and just because I don't know that any of you have a teacher in your building that's a trained data scientist. So all this, if you do, I'd like to talk to them, but you probably don't. You know, just modeling that workflow and that analysis and things. And so, guys, I'm really pumped about the way that you're using it. I'm going to share my screen real quick. I have one simple slide, but I'm going to use it to jump into a couple different things. And so basically, and like I said, you kind of got to what I call skill up to level up. And so when we got Warren County's feet wet, that's exactly what it was, just starting small. And then Ben said a lot of trial and error, and literally that's the way I learned it as well. So there's things that you have to get in. And then when you're talking about the design, like, well, maybe I didn't design it, you know, this way, the way I should have, or like after you get past the first one, you start to kind of get your rhythm and your art to it. And so what I wanted to do just quickly is just a really quick walkthrough. I'm going to do that using something that you all now have access to. This is just a little Google site that I use, and actually Ben and Amy, a lot of this will look very familiar. It has some background information. You know, if you want to get into the weeds a little bit, and it even has, you'll even find in there some, Courtney, your question was great about, hey, you know, Ben, did your staff, you know, were they able to internalize that a little differently since it was visual? Well, there's a lot of like nerdy type research that will lead you down that road, and it's actually buried in here if you want to take a look at it. And so, but what I wanted to hit on the first page was just this. And so you guys were really talking about the uses, and then Ben was talking about how to come back. And so really, this is just something simple that Marty and I kind of looked at last year. I did a really rough graphic, but you can kind of see, we talked about 4 or 5 different on-ramps to this, you know, and if this current situation is giving you an on-ramp to get into Data Studio and find a way to use this, that's your on-ramp. That's great. We're talking a lot about the access and organization of your data. Amy, like, she listed out you know, where the teachers are keeping the spreadsheet and the assistant principals doing the visualizations. And so kind of that digital workflow for your access and organization of that. And then really the key, and here is where Data Studio's magic happens, just the visualizing and interacting. Guys, your bank app, like everything that you do gives you the ability to filter, and like, so you're putting something in the hands of your teachers that they're familiar with, probably outside of the school setting. Now you're bringing something familiar there. And that's going to give you what we kind of call the evidence, because really data by itself can be really useless or misinterpreted. But when you put some context around it, and when you give the people the ability to make it personal, like drill into their grade level, then you really, so Courtney, I think that's what you're talking about, is like the ability to internalize and personalize this evidence. And then, you know, with that evidence, you take some action. And then you kind of ask what we call our next best question. Like, because usually in that action is going to create more questions. And so then you can circle back around, visualize and interact some more in order to be able to continue to make those adjustments and do it quickly for the benefit of staff, students, and our community. And so also in this is if you go to Skill Up, you see, guys, there's some on-demand stuff that you can use on your own time when you have the opportunity, but I was going to use this as an example. Like Skilling Up 1, there's a practice data set here. So if you're like, but I don't have a like data, but now you do. And so make a copy of that.
While that's making a copy, this is fantastic. It's exactly what I need. Thank you so much.
I have someone watching and they're texting me and they're like, that is awesome. And then Jeff Sabolsky wanted to give a side note of awesome shirt. Ben Maynard giving the STLP shout out.
That kind of ripped my boy. Thank you, Jeffrey. So now you have a sample data set, and if you go to Data Studio, which if you've never been to Data Studio, it's simply datastudio.google.com. This is kind of your home screen. So to make your first report, guys, you would simply go to Create Report. And then it's going to ask you to connect your data. And so look at all of these different things in here. Don't worry about those. Most of you and I still don't even know what 9/10 of those are. Don't worry about it, because really the only one you need is Google Sheets. So click on Google Sheets. Now it's going to kind of give you like a file picker, like some of your most recent stuff. Guess what? Because I just opened that file, guess what's right on top? So I'm going to select that spreadsheet. Now guys, here is something kind of next level for those of you that are working on this or moving down this road a little bit. You can have one spreadsheet with multiple, like worksheets at the bottom that this will give you the opportunity to pick from. So this sample data set just has the one tab, I still call it. But if you had multiple at the bottom, you could then select it and create your data source. And so I have never, ever, ever unchecked these two options. So just leave them as they are and then click Add. And since that data set is not very large, it won't take too much time. And then, unlike some of the other apps though, it doesn't like auto name it for you. So you might want to name it first. And it goes ahead and it starts you out with a table and says, hey, is this what you want to start with? And so I won't lead you too far down this road, but this is where now you have a practice data set that you can connect to your first report. And now you can get in here and start looking at all the different charts to add. Ben showcased some pie charts. You drag it and you drop it. If you need bar charts, here's one of the ones that you're going to love is just, I'm an old coach. And so like it's called a scorecard. And so if there's numbers you want to display, then that's going to be your key. Now, keep in mind, it will display what are called metrics. So any kind of numbers or like products or sums that you've created, we'll display those for sure. So, and then Heidi, you were talking about filters. So like in the last 6 months, you used to have one option. Now you have like a ton of them. And so the most traditional one is this drop down. And so our practice data set, I don't know if you remember, it was like our little pet store. And so it automatically popped this, like the species in. Let's say though that I was really more interested in the country of origin. I just slide it over. It changes this. Now, how do I get that to work? Just go to view and you can drop it. And then that's where you can select only, you can select multiple, and then you can always go back to edit. Just a couple of quick things, and then I will honestly move on. Here, you can insert text features, and this is going to be really important as we start talking about designing to tell your data story. Shapes, make sure rectangles and circles seems really simple, but that's where you can really get into the design features to make this really attractive and pop and tell that story in a way that you want it to. And then the ability to upload pictures by URL and from your device. Anytime you click on any of your charts, you get style tabs. They've introduced conditional formatting in the last 6 to 8 months or so. So you can really call attention to things that don't really line up with maybe the way it should be. Kids that are not meeting benchmark, for instance. You can adjust size and colors, and so there's a ton of stuff in there for you to kind of, I guess, trial and error a little bit with and learn to kind of create your best report. And so that is just super, super duper quick. How you can do that, and you can come in and create this. And actually, if you stay with, there's actually just a few pieces, like 2 charts and a filter. And then when you go to skilling up to, sorry, pull that up over. This practice data set is, I'll show it to you just really quickly. It's going to look more familiar. It won't be pet shopping now. We're going to be looking at RIT scores. So this should look familiar. This type of data will look familiar to you for sure. And so that will be your next one. And so one of the things to do on that one, guys, is your goal is to start with a question. Because really the key is, you can show data from a spreadsheet visually, and there is advantages to that, but the key is going to be, how do you lead people to make conclusions, to draw evidence, and to make it personal? And you can do that simply by the filters and the questions that you ask. And I would say this: if you don't have an art to making these yet, start with a question. Start with a question and design around that. And I think that's going to help you a whole lot. Just quickly, so the how-to section will give you more in depth, like just a quick tutorial on how to create that, what we just did, your data sort, your sheet, the structuring of your sheet. It really likes column headers, and those will be your dimensions when you start looking at filters and things in your table. So keep that in mind. There's a free beginner course. So you can do that. And here's just a walkthrough and just some quick little screen grabs and captures that will probably help you as you create your next one. And so I'm actually going to stop sharing and talk just very quickly. And James, one of the things that we've talked about before is, Heidi, yours was for an audience, like a public audience. Ben, your initial one was for an audience of one, right? And so then you expanded to an audience of, of 2+, where you're involving admin teams. And so there's some design, elements and design considerations to consider when it's, just for you or for a team inside your building or your district, but also when you're looking to do it publicly. So not only is there an intent with your design, but there's also, especially, Heidi, like when you're talking about doing something for the public, there's some areas that we probably need to consider. And James has been super helpful with that. I don't get to make too many that are public facing at this point. And so I don't have a great deal of practice there, but I know James is certainly on top of this, and we've talked about this before. So James has a good amount of information to be able to share here about if you're taking something public, or even just inside the building, some design considerations that are going to be key.
All right, and my section here is not super data studio specific, so we're all creating tons of content right now, so feel free to use any of this for anything you're creating for your school. Or, your teachers can use this stuff, your kids can use it, some of it. I'm gonna share my screen. Everybody see that okay?
Yep, looks great.
All right, so first, I use this Chrome extension probably more than I use any other one. It is called ColorZilla. I don't know if you can see it, my screen's probably kind of small. It's that first little eyedropper up in my little plugins up there in Chrome. It lets you choose a color from the page, which seems kind of like a simple thing, but it just saves a lot of time and makes your designs kind of fit together. And the cool thing about Data Studio is you have lots of transferable skills. You're going to be able to use skills that you've developed using slides and Google Drawings. And we mentioned, if you know Google Sheets, that's going to help a little bit. But finding the color that you're going to use and making it consistent, making it go along with your logos that you have for your school or your district. So you just click that little eyedropper. I'm going to try it right now. It says pick color from page. And once I do that, as I drag my mouse around the screen, it's sampling colors from around the screen. So you can use this to sample a logo, or you can use it to you can even choose, let's see. Right now it's a point sample. You can even do an average. So it can choose an average of 25 pixels. So if you want something to kind of go along with the picture that you have in your Data Studio, you can use that. Once you click it, it automatically copies that color code to your clipboard. So you can paste that into whatever you're working on in Data Studio, or if you're using some other tool, you can just copy and paste that color code in there, and then you're all set. So here's just an example. I think these slides are going to be shared later in the description, maybe. This will take you to something. Brooke Whitlow reached out and was like, I want to embed Google Sheets, but I want it to look a certain way. And you can embed Google Sheets into all kinds of sites, but Data Studio kind of lets you customize how that looks and with the drop downs we talked about. But you can see this yellow part of the Data Studio is coming from that yellow of the sun that was already created. The background of these drop downs was from the navy blue and the empowerment word right there. So it doesn't look like you're in Data Studio. It looks like you just kind of put this tool right inside of your website, and it all kind of flows and matches. So this was free, ColorZilla. Here's the link to Chrome so you can install it. It takes like 2 seconds. Next is something that popped up in my Facebook feed. It's popped up a few times, and it's a set of posters for designing for accessibility. And really, a lot of these design things they have in this document, I'm going to pull it up. Except I clicked on the wrong thing, sorry. They have it in text, but they also have PDFs here. And it's kind of do's and don'ts. So autistic spectrum, screen readers, low vision. And this low vision one really kind of applies for everyone. So use good color contrast and readable font size. All of this matters, especially when you're looking at things on a screen. Let's see, what was another good one? Yes, this dyslexia one, just making things a single column of text and not double columns. There's a few more in here. These are great posters. If I was doing this every single day, I think I would have these printed out and use them all the time. And then these are just some things that I talk about, whether it's Data Studio or Google Slides or Google Drawings, whatever you're using, just making your stuff consistent. And we talked about how you can have multiple pages in Data Studio, making those pages consistent. So it doesn't feel like to your end user, you're switching you're switching the whole ballgame to a new place, making that kind of flow. You're using the same fonts, you're using the same colors. The spacing that you're using is similar. So when we use apps on our phones and we go to websites, we're kind of used to things looking a certain way. White space is really important. And the white space is really just that negative space that you're not using. So like the distance in this bulleted list right here from the edge of the screen, making that consistent on every single page, just like you do in Google Slides or Keynote. And then experiment viewing your Data Studio creation on different screens. So it can you can build Data Studio stuff that can work on mobile devices, but you just might want to test some of those things out, see what they look like. And something else that's really important visually are icons. And my favorite icon resource is the Noun Project. This link right here will take you to the page that is for educators. I've paid for it for 2 or 3 years now. It's $20 a year. And what that $20 does is change the licensing for the icons that you use. So if you use just a regular account, you need to give Creative Commons credit, like in your design, so that you can see that. But if you pay for the full version, it changes the license of the use of those icons, so you can just use them. And then I put these 4 on here for a reason. When you use the Noun Project, you may not know this, but it's really thousands and thousands and thousands of icons from thousands of creators. So I put a link on this first one right here. And this takes me to kind of a collection that one person has uploaded. So artists have their own kind of style. They're using the certain kind of weight in their images, a certain amount of just kind of the style of the lines that they use. So if you choose one icon, and I'll show you how this works. So let's say I search for education. Right here it says by Dinosoft Lab in the Education Glyphs Icons collection. So if you click on that collection, you can then go there and get icons that look similar visually to each other than just doing a brand new search every time on the Noun Project and getting icons from a bunch of different artists. Sometimes it helps to use from the same person. And then I think this might be my last one. I did a presentation at TCA last year, a little bit more on just design stuff in general, not Data Studio. So there's a link to this here. There's also a little Easter egg. If you click on this little arrow, that'll take you to a template for Google Slides where you can get some of these animated GIFs. And I was experimenting with Data Studio the other night. It works great with transparent PNGs. So when you download those from Noun Project or if you have photos that have transparent backgrounds, you can do some really cool stuff.
James, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on this. And previously, historically, like I hadn't really focused on the design element of things. I've been like, okay, give me the data, give me the information, put it together. But actually, my coworker Matt kind of has rubbed off on me because he's very graphic in nature, like he has that graphic eye. But I really have seen the benefit and the importance of focusing on making things visually appealing, because if it's not, it won't get used. And so
Yeah, it goes even further than appealing. Like, we can make things that look good, but they also have to be usable.
right.
So, and that's really really consistency is key when you're creating anything. If you already have kind of slides that you use with your school or slides that you share with your parents, use that same theme, like use the same colors, use the same font. So when they see your data studio work, that their brain kind of makes a connection. Oh yeah, this is from the school. It looks a certain way. So really, consistency is really important.
Yeah, and I keep thinking like even website design, and we need to kind of look at this in the same way and think about our audience when we're actually designing and putting these design elements into the data studio as well. And this is actually a huge growth area for me. And Heidi, you said something about it not having all the filters and everything, but I wanted to look at that data when I saw it. So I think this is really important to mention, and those resources are great that you shared, James. Thank you.
And while I have a captive audience, I will get on a font soapbox for a second. When you think about fonts, use as few as possible, I swear. And when I say few, like if you have 2 or 3 different sizes of fonts, those all count. Like it needs to be like, one kind of heading font and then another body, and then maybe one more for special things. Like it's so easy to get into this font rabbit hole and be looking for all kinds of different stuff. So just go easy on the fonts and your stuff will magically look 100% better.
I'm cracking up because the first week when I first took this job, Marty Park, he looked at me and was like, hey, you need to go to Noun Project, and kind of, he was really nice, but very, very nicely telling me, you need some help. You can't just throw out numbers. So I appreciate all the sharing. I'm always in awe of what James creates. He's so creative. So to get to pick his brain, especially, again, I have a CIO that we're chatting, and I said, especially for PR people, that right now everybody's looking at districts, and it's what can you see, what can you throw out? It's a lot different than probably most of us when we first started teaching, that it was, it's as visual now as ever. And parents are looking to schools and non-creative people. I am the least creative person on this panel, I assure you. But non-creative people now are kind of forced to be a little creative because we have to showcase the data that we have. So thanks for sharing that, James.
Yes, and I was going to say thank you, James, for sharing that too. I don't know about you, Courtney, but I'm not really creative either. I'm more of the data, the data studio, and I just really appreciate.
You can be creative with data too. It's
Yeah, just really appreciate you all sharing all of the resources. Definitely the data biz for admin. I feel like I need a certification badge or something after going through that, because it's just really filled with information. And after with James, after I pretty it up with using his 3 fonts rule for the data studio, so that is awesome.
All right. Well, this was a great show. We want to thank everybody on Kentucky Go Digital Live for joining us today. Courtney, do you want to tell people how they can continue to stay supported and stay connected to Kentucky Go Digital?
Yes. Follow the hashtag KYGoDigital on Twitter. There's also a Facebook page, and of course on KYGoDigital.com. They said that there's some shows in the past that we've actually had around Data Studio, as well as other shows. I highly recommend you look. It's Kentucky educators leading from the trenches and sharing awesome ideas. So check it out.
Awesome. Well, Ben, Amy, Ben, James, thank you so much for sharing with us today. This is true team sport, and you are really helping us all work smarter. You can receive on-demand video support by subscribing to our Kentucky Go Digital Live channel on YouTube. All you have to do is just click that subscribe button right there. Our next show is going to be on Friday, November 6th, because Tuesday is election day. So we'll have Sarah Blackburn and Kim Fields, who are teacher leaders for Pikeville Independent School District. We have also, I think Courtney just said this, created a Facebook page to help support. So you can find us on Facebook. And you can also continue to follow us on Twitter and contribute to the hashtag KYGoDigital as well. So keep your eyes open from us for regional signups, which will be released soon. You can see which dates and where you can connect. It says in person on here. I think we'll have to see on that one, maybe. But definitely stay connected, keep creating, keep sharing, and keep tuning in. We'll see you all on November 6th. Thank you so much.
All right.